the BASN Metalen. Let's talk about it. This is a sample sent out to me by BASN. This is a 2 dynamic driver, 2 balanced armature IEM that costs around $120. Let's start by talking about the build quality of this IEM, then we'll go from there. Now this IEM comes in green and blue. You have choices. Now the shell is metallic, it isolates well, it is snug and small in ears and isolates, so that's kind of a good combination if that's what you're looking for. It's all around not a bad IEM. It is an MMCX IEM, which, you know, normally isn't my favorite, but this IEM does come with 2 cables. We'll look at them here in a moment. You know, the faceplate is not too exciting, just kind of has some branding. And the nozzle has some nice contours for ear tips, which I always enjoy. Comfortable shell, but not my favorite. There is a very fair amount of accessories with a 6.3 adapter for professional use, a cleaner, a shirt hook, and different tips. All right, let's look at the cables. Now they do have a microphone, and they're both MMCX. The microphone cable is not super exciting. It's kind of, it feels like the cheaper of the 2 and just kind of a little bit more bland. But at least they include a cable with a microphone, which is a nice touch because finding cables with microphones with MMCX cables is a little bit of a challenge. Now the other cable is quite nice. It terminates in a 3.5. Its cable is nice and braided and thick, and it feels weighty and nice in hand. It has a nice Y-split and chin slider at this price point. Again, it's not a super fancy cable, but it's nice. The ear hooks are a little bit strange on this, and you do have to contour them every time, like they kind of bend back easily. I like the design of this case. It just kind of has this kind of metallic-y feel to it, kind of a ribbed outside. I don't know, it's kind of a spacey sort of a feel. It feels like it's a nice little build quality case that has a good feel and design to it. Nothing too exciting, but a fair case nonetheless. Now, how does this IEM sound? It has an extremely late bass rise, so a lot of people are going to say the mids would be cooked. And this is not a mid-focused IEM, but it's more for people who want a warm presentation. It can be a lot of fun and very enjoyable. It's not super fatiguing, but it does kind of feel like it has recessed vocals that are kind of sharp and not super enjoyable. But it feels like for certain tracks of music, it feels like it's a more of a mainstream style, like not less audiophile, less neutral of a set. A good pick if you're just kind of a normal person, not looking for the most neutral or pristine set. You just want a set that's fun, that's warm, that's easy to wear. I think this would be a good set, and it does sound good and clear. You know, this is a fun sounding set, but I mean, a lot of people might describe this as muddy or boomy or cuppy or even honky or boxy, sometimes even hollow. It has a little bit of sharpness and piercingness, but it has a nice mix in the same time. It has a lot of energy and detail where it needs to be to overcome that amount of detail. So this tuning, while a little bit strange and out of the box when we look at the graph, I do think the tuning works, but it is not what I would consider my pick for neutral set, and is a little bit more for people that want a warm, fun set and that's comfortable and isolates well, rather than a set that is the most neutral and clean. Before we get too deep in the video, I wanted to share a promotion. Their microphones, which are pretty famous and pretty good, they are 30% off right now, and if you buy one, you get a free IEM. It's called their BASN BM Master set. I've not tried it, but it's kind of a good deal at 30% off with a free IEM. I plan to have links in the video description soon, about as soon as the video goes live. Here is the page where you can see it at. You'll notice that it has a few good features. It is metallic CNC crafted, has a comfortable ergonomic, almost earbud style IEMs, and they are for hybrid drivers. Now let's look at the graph. You'll notice there is a ton of warmth. This is an interesting tune that I think kind of works, but kind of doesn't at times. It becomes a fun, good sounding IEM in ear, but if at times if you are looking for a neutral presentation, this doesn't do neutrality extremely well. Again, you'll notice kind of this large bass rise and a little bit of a dip right around here at 8K, which makes this very V-shaped but kind of fun. Let's compare this to a few other IEMs graph-wise and kind of talk about what we mean. The first one to look at is the BASN MT Pro. Now, I didn't really like the BASN MT Pro. It had a lot of this kind of mid-bassy hump as well. It just didn't seem like it worked as well for me, but it's also not a bad set at the same time, and it might work for you. If we look at some other sets, this reminds me a little bit of a 𝗵𝗲 with a little bit less treble and a little bit more warmth through here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I personally just find the 𝗵𝗲 to be more cohesive and the air and detail to actually work better for me. So I think around this price, I think the 𝗵𝗲 might be the better way to go. Another one to think about and look at, I reviewed this on channel recently, is an 𝗹𝗶_ħ. Now, it doesn't have nearly the features, not nearly the packaging. It doesn't really have everything you might want, but if you want a more neutral, simple, clean audiophile set, the 𝗹𝗶_ħ MS is a really solid $50 set, and I think it's kind of a benchmark set at its price. Another one to think about at the $120 price is the 𝗹𝗶_ħ. It's a nice set, but you notice how flat the 𝗹𝗶_ħ looks, and that flatness is sometimes really nice, and it doesn't have any sharpness, and it just kind of lets the music play, whereas the Metalen kind of has some issues. Like, it becomes a little bit too fun at times, and it doesn't have a lot of sub bass and has a little bit more mid bass heavy, and its mids can be a little bit off at times. Another one to think about is the 𝗵𝗵𝗲. The 𝗹𝗶 is a really fun set with a lot of bass. It's a little bit more neutral. I think it's if you're going for a slight V-shaped set with details, the 𝗹𝗶 does this a little bit better. Now, you're not going to get the isolation like you will out of the Metalen, but it is in that price point of around where I feel this lies sonically. Now, another one to look at, this is one that I just got off on Kickstarter, and I think they FR-wise are very similar. This is the 𝗵𝗳𝗍 Nebula, and you'll notice there's a lot more sub bass here and a little bit more treble extension. I like the Nebula better, and it's funny how you can have different FR graphs and they both can do the same thing, but the Nebula is only usable out of USB-C. So that becomes a little bit of a problem for people that want to use traditional amps. Again, this tuning isn't bad, but I feel like with a little bit more sub bass, it could be a little bit more effective, and that's kind of my concern. This actually reminds me of one of my favorite IEMs, the 𝗵𝗲. And the 𝗵𝗲, what the 𝗵𝗲 does well is it has this thunderous bass. So while the Metalen has this old school mid bass, it doesn't have that sub bass as much as I would want. It doesn't have the extension as much as we want, and it doesn't have as many crispy details or highs that we would want. But all in all, it is a solid set that does get kind of a hesitant recommendation. And the last thing I wanted to show you is that you can EQ this IEM. It does take the EQ well, and so it is not a bad idea to try this EQ out. I just EQ'd this to my target, and I felt like it gave me a little bit more thunder and a little bit more bass. It was all in all a better IEM when I tried it with. All right, let's rank this guy up. The BASN Metalen. I'm overall like 7.2. It's decent. When I first started listening to this guy, I was a huge fan, but the more I started really getting into it, really A-Bing and really feeling what this is about, it has nice bass. It has nice note weight. Its mids are kind of cooked, but its highs are reasonable for the price. It images pretty well, but again, the warmness can tell things off, and its soundstage is solid. I think a lot of people are going to like this IEM, but I don't find this to be the audiophile IEM that many of you guys want. So it's a fun set. It's not tonally neutral, but I think people will like it that try it. that are looking for that fun, enjoyable style of tuning. This has been a fun experience for me to test this set. I haven't experienced so many warm sets that kind of have this sort of a tuning. It's kind of an interesting tuning that has kind of helped me kind of develop my taste and appetite. Me as an audiophile, like the longer I've been an audiophile, the more different tunes I can get used to because I do test a lot of IEMs. I find this guy enjoyable. But again, my palette for being able to enjoy IEMs is a lot more wide than it was even a year or even 2 years ago before I started actually reviewing. So this IEM is a solid choice, but it does have some caveats, and it is not for people that want that neutral set. It's more for people that need isolation, that don't mind the MMCX cable, and are interested in this IEM already. It is a solid pick. It is very fun, and I enjoy listening to music on this set despite its lack of neutrality. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great day. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris. Or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!